Body cam shows Florida police sergeant grabbing female officer by the throat. Newly released footage shows a Florida cop shouting at a detained black man, "I will remove your effing soul," before he was pulled away by a female officer, whom he later grabbed by the throat in a fit of rage. Sergeant Christopher Police arrived at the scene in the city of Sunrise on November 19th, after other officers had already responded to reports of a man attacking people outside a convenience store. The suspect, Gene Similian, had threatened to shoot officers and resisted as they guided him to the back of a police cruiser. "Look at me, mother effer," Police told the man when he arrived, leaning into the car with his hand on the seat. "You want to play effing games? You want to get disrespectful with my effing officers? I'll remove your effing soul from your effing body." A 27-year-old female officer pulls Police away by his belt in an attempt to defuse the situation. That's when the sergeant, a 21-year veteran of the force, turned around and pushed her against a car by the throat. He shouts an expletive at her and says, "Don't ever effing touch me again." He later tells her, "And I'll expletive see you in about 5 minutes," according to audio obtained by WSVN. Police is suspended with pay as he faces an internal and criminal investigation. Sunrise Police released silent body cam footage of the November incident in January. WSVN obtained audio of the incident last week. The officers were responding to reports that Similian was attacking people outside of a Shop and Save convenience store in Sunrise, a suburb of Fort Lauderdale. Bodycam video shows other officers arguing with Similian before he was eventually placed in a patrol car. "I don't want to talk," he said as he stood between two apartment buildings at about 2 p.m. "It don't matter, it's my effing rights." He then makes a threat. "Y'all steady following me. If I open fire on 1, 2, or 3, I told y'all don't follow me." A female officer asks, "So are you threatening us with that?" He replies, "You can take it how you want to." The officer then tells someone via her radio, "Suspect is threatening to open fire at this time," to which a voice replies, "The suspect, why is he not detained yet?" Footage from Police's body cam shows the moment he pulls up to the scene with pepper spray in hand and begins yelling at him. "Watch out, mother effer. Hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. You want to effing play, effing games? You play with the wrong mother effer," Police said. "Do what you gotta do, man. You gonna mace me? Mace me," Similian replied. That's when Police threatened to remove his soul from his body. "Well, do it," Similian said. At that point, an unidentified female officer with less than 3 years of experience on the force pulled Sergeant Police back. The 21-year veteran turned around and pushed her against a car, initially grabbing her by the neck before his hand moved to her shoulder. "Sir," the woman said as her colleague assaulted her. Police walks back to the squad car with the cuffed suspects and shouts, "We clear?" Similian responds, "Yes, sir." "And I'll effing see you in about 5 minutes, Police said, pointing at the female officer. He briefly returned to his patrol car before returning to the waiting officers. "Everyone turn off their effing cameras," he said, according to audio obtained by WSVN. Police is now being investigated criminally. Police in Sunrise are working in conjunction with the Broward State Attorney's Office during this criminal investigation, police spokesman Justin Yarborough said back in January. Meanwhile, the union that represents officers in Sunrise, the FOP Lodge 80, is demanding that Police Chief Anthony Rosa recuse himself from the investigation and is furious about the interview, claiming Police is being stitched up. It's apparent that he has prematurely arrived at a conclusion without attaining all the facts, the union said in a statement. "I want to emphasize that it's one of my highest responsibilities to ensure safe working conditions for all employees, and I will not waver from that obligation no matter who's involved," Rosa responded in a written statement. He said that Police was inappropriate and unprofessional in the situation, and added that he unnecessarily elevated the demeanor of the suspect. Police has been taken off his supervisory duties since the incident. Internal Affairs is investigating, with Rosa calling his behavior disgusting. He has no contact or supervision over subordinate personnel, according to Rosa. "I'm very proud of the officer involved in this incident and believe that the actions taken were definitive and demonstrative of good leadership during a tense situation," Rosa said. He noted that Sunrise officers are told to de-escalate emotionally charged situations and intervene if one of their own appears to lose control or display inappropriate conduct in interacting with the public. In an interview with a local TV station in January, Rosa was asked why police hasn't already been charged in the 3 months since the incident, with a reporter pointing out that any civilian who put their hands on an officer's throat would face charges. So there's some details of the investigation that I've not disclosed, that I'm unable to disclose right now, and if any of the information that comes up during the investigation rises to a level of criminal behavior or criminal conduct, then we'll address it appropriately, Rosa responded. A WSVN investigation into police said that he'd been investigated twice for excessive use of force in his 2 decades on the job, but had been cleared both times. The Sunrise Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 80 said in January it supported the sergeant receiving a fair investigation and an unbiased and objective conclusion. It also accused Chief Rosa of bias, prejudicial, and unprofessional behavior. The statement from Lodge President Steve Negron said, Chief Rosa should not be opining as to his personal feelings or assisting in publicly ridiculing the sergeant to the community or his subordinates. CNN has since reached out to Sunrise FOP for further comment. If convicted, the maximum possible penalties are 5 years in state prison for felony battery on a law enforcement officer, 1 year for assaulting a law enforcement officer, and 60 days for assault on a civilian, according to the state attorney's statement. The maximum sentence for tampering with evidence is 5 years, according to the statement. See what happens next for this cop after helping this man. A New Jersey police officer was sentenced for drug dealing and a videotaped violent attack on a man who had just attempted suicide, authorities said on Friday. Reuben McCausland, a 27-year-old formerly with the Patterson Police Department, was sentenced to 66 months behind bars this week after pleading guilty to intent to distribute narcotics and deprivation of civil rights under color of law, according to federal prosecutors in Newark. The authorities this week released cell phone video of McCausland, filmed by his then-partner Roger Then, attacking a man at St. Joseph's Medical Center in Patterson on March 5, 2018. The 2 officers had responded to an attempted suicide call and met the man at the hospital, officials said. McCausland later admitted he punched the man in the face in the waiting room, officials said. The assault continued in the man's room. In the cell phone video shot by Officer Then, the man can be heard telling the officers, "You're a bitch." "Right here, you see my cheek?" the prone patient challenged. "Do it." That's when McCausland put on white hospital gloves and violently slapped him hard across the face, twice, the video showed. The man already had cuts on his face, and McCausland's slaps were so violent that blood appeared to go flying into the white bed sheets by the victim's shoulder. McCausland's sentence is also for selling marijuana, cocaine, and heroin to a cooperating witness between October 2017 and April 2018, authorities said. McCausland told investigators that he stole these narcotics from a crime scene while on duty. Through prosecutions like this one, police officers like McCausland, who dealt drugs, stole from a crime scene, and viciously attacked a person who sought help from the Patterson Police Department, are removed from positions where they can violate the public trust and deprive others of their civil rights under color of law, U.S. Attorney Craig Carpenito said in a statement. We will continue to vigilantly pursue these cases, recognizing that the people of Patterson and all of New Jersey deserve better, he said. FBI Special Agent Gregory W. Airy, who runs the Newark office, called the case troubling. When an officer betrays the oath to protect and serve, it tarnishes the law enforcement community and puts the public at risk, Airy said in a statement. McCausland's lawyer could not be immediately reached for comment on Friday. His former partner, Officer Then, has pleaded guilty to 1 felony count of concealing civil rights violations. He's scheduled to be sentenced April 2nd. Police officer lose their life for justice. A police officer has been stabbed to death near a train station in Brussels. The attacker, who was also carrying a gun, is said to have shouted Allah Akbar as he knifed the officer and shot his colleague. One of the officers, a 29-year-old inspector, was stabbed in the neck and died, while the other was shot in the groin. Their colleagues opened fire on the attacker, and in the ensuing exchange of gunfire, he was shot dead. The incident happened on a road in the Schaerbeek area, near to the Bruxelles Nord station, at around 7:15 p.m. local time. According to local media reports, earlier in the day, the man went to a police station in the Evere area of Brussels and announced he was going to carry out an attack on officers. He then went voluntarily to a psychiatric hospital, but was later released. One of our patrols was attacked by a man armed with a knife, said Brussels police. They then called for reinforcements. A policeman from another patrol used his firearm to neutralize the attacker. Belgian anti-terror investigators took over the investigation, the federal prosecutor's office said. We took charge of the case because there's suspicion of a terrorist motive, which will be confirmed or disproved by the investigators, spokesman Eric van Dijs said. Belgium's Prime Minister Alexander De Croo paid tribute to the dead officer. Our police officers risk their lives on a daily basis to ensure the safety of our citizens, he said. Today's tragedy demonstrates this once again. My thoughts are with the family and friends of the deceased officer. My sincere hope is that his hospitalized colleague will recover. The country's Interior Minister, Annelies Verlinden, tweeted, "What a horrible tragedy. This event breaks my heart. My thoughts go, above all, to the relatives of the officers and the whole police force." Between 2016 and 2018, Belgium witnessed several fatal Islamist terror attacks. The Belgian capital was the scene of deadly ISIS terrorist attacks in March 2016. 3 jihadis detonated devices in the airport and on the metro system, killing and maiming innocents as they waited for flights or traveled to work. In the morning, 2 suicide bombers, armed with explosives, crammed into suitcases, walked into the departures hall of Zaventem Airport. A 3rd bomber was prevented from detonating his device by an earlier explosion and fled the scene, leaving the bomb. Just over an hour later, another blast erupted on metro system in the city center. In the middle carriage of a 3-car train at Malbeek Station, near the European Commission headquarters, the bomb went off as it was pulling out of the station. Please share with family and friends, and give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.